Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Musically Minded. It is Sunday afternoon. It is a very rainy and chilly Sunday. It's not a sunny day at all here in New England. And we are recovering from a most wonderful, wicked party last night. Diana here, my illustrious co-host, has been on a secret mission for I can't even conceive of how long, and there were many surprises, and we had many good friends, and we had a really wonderful show. DJ Loki joined in again, one of the surprises that was negotiated via DJD42. Loki jumped in for a set and played for us for a little while, and gosh, it really makes me miss doing the tag team sets with your brother. I loved it when we were doing the shows together in Zuzu, and then when you were next door. It was awfully convenient when you were next door. But hey, thanks to the miracles of things like OBS and Twitch, we get to do this kind of stuff. And yes, Loki up in the chat, we will do them again. Yeah, perhaps even for Halloween, my friend. So let's see. So, Diana, I'm going to turn your microphone on. And, of course, DJD42, your hostess with the mostess, always letting you know all the good stuff that's going on in your chat room, mostly because she's the one that makes it all happen. Let there be no doubt about this. And Diana, would you kindly let us know all the good things that are coming up in this next week or so?
All right. Well, this Wednesday, April 26th, we have the Artist Spotlight with Batavia. So don't miss that on twitch.tv/mtvtv. And then on Saturday, April 29th at 8 p. Eastern, we have, Purgisnacht, Halloween in April with official DJ Loki. So that'll be a lot of fun. And of course, the following week, we're taking a Saturday off to go to Dark Spring, Boston. And then, of course, join us every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern right here on twitch.tv/ADDAMBOMBB for Musically Minded.
Indeedy do. And of course, I do want to say thank you again for joining us as you do. Week after week, for joining us today and for all of your support. Of course, if you want to hit the Patreon, it's ADDAMBOMBB, just like every place else. And might as well mention that all the stuff on my Bandcamp is always free, and I have the bootleg EPs out, the bootleg albums out there, the bootleg compilations. I've done a lot of bootlegging. Which you can find on the SoundCloud, and you can link to the downloads from that. So conveniently, it's all out there and it's all free. So if you want to have it in your collection, you can have it in your collection, or you can just listen to it online in all the usual places. But I think that's actually something that leads us into our topic for the day. Diana, you want to hit us up with the where we've been and where we're at and where we're going today?
Well, we have been talking about beat matching and ways to create a seamless experience for the listener, and some of the mixing techniques we can use to accomplish that. Actually, what I'd like to know today is what's the difference between a mashup, bootleg, a remix, and sampling?
Okay, so the differences between mashups, remixes, bootlegs, and sampling. All right, so that's that. We're going to cover some ground on this. This is going to be fun. Okay, so where should we start? Which one do you want to start with? Mashups?
Mashups, I guess, yeah.
All right, we'll start with mashups. So a mashup is recontextualizing two different pieces of music, or potentially more, by layering them together to create a new piece of music. Usually with a mashup, it'll be done mashing the vocals. So you're gonna hear me use the term a cappella a lot, which of course just means without accompaniment. And so usually when I say a cappella, I am referring to the vocal track without any other instrumentation around it. Play you an example of one. This is an a cappella. Get loaded for me there, and you'll recognize this, right?
I said a hip hop, a hip it to the hip hopper. You don't stop to rock it to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump.
So as you can see, there's no beats going on. There's no music going on along with that. So that's what we mean by an a cappella. Mashups don't necessarily have to be made from an a cappella. And a lot of times, if you're using older material or, if you're really literally just like when you're doing live mashups and you're like literally putting two fully produced songs together, right? You don't really have the option of getting a nice, clean a cappella. So what we do is we use EQing to the best of our ability, and try to create as as clean as possible, so that it's not bunching up in the bass lines, and so that the two songs can be recognizable together. And so usually when you're doing a mashup, you will be using instrumental parts from one song and layering over the vocal parts from another. So you might have like a beats and bass line from one thing going on, and then the vocals from the other. What's up, Frantic? I know you wanted to talk about this kind of stuff today, so here we are. Let's see. Sometimes like okay, so there's doing live mashups, right? Like while you're in the mix, and then there's pre-produced mashups where you do it in a DAW, a digital audio workstation, and produce the mashup. Again, I want to say a mashup is taking existing songs and putting them together to make a new song. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I have a good example on the top of my head here. Let me do this real quick. All right, let's see. I need Mary Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because it's in my retro folder. It's in the other crate. It's in the retro crate. That's why I'm in the wrong crate. Mary. Okay, so on one deck, I'm going to load the... you know what? I'm just going to do the original because, like I'm saying, we're going to go mash up as if we're doing it in the mix, okay? So Mary, and what am I thinking? Is it Big Time? Is that the one I'm thinking? I did it in one of the shows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Okay. So let's take a quick listen on a couple of these things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take it down towards the end of Mary because again, the reason that we're doing this is to kind of to do the example of how we would do it live, and to get that sort of insight, behind the curtain on the whole DJ thing. So let's take a quick listen to the end of Mary, and then we'll take a quick listen to the beginning of Big Time. And then we're going to figure out how we might potentially put the two together to make it mash into a groovy little live mix. All right, so let's check out the end of "Mary Mary" by, of course, Run DMC. Okay, there's a nice little beat, right? And then it gets kind of messy. Okay, so, well, the first thing that I'm thinking is that I'm going to want that nice little bit of clean beat. And yes, I do have a cue point already there because, as I said, I did it in a show once. And so here we go. That's a good little loop. So let's loop that. That sounds pretty good. I think it can be just slightly cleaner. That sounds pretty clean to me. All right, let's keep that there. Do I actually have that loop saved up here? That's funny. Yeah, how about that? Since I had the loop saved, I could have just saved myself the trouble of doing that, but you just got to see how I do it. All right, let's take a listen on the other deck to Peter Gabriel's Big Time. Okay, that does not give us much room to get in, does it? No, it does not. Let's get back to the beginning. So what we hear first is that it starts on the snare before the one beat. You know, we've talked about this a lot, right? Like, where's the one beat? Where is the one beat? And so we've got this. This is the 3 beat. The 1, 2, 3, 4 beat. It's the 4 beat before the 1 beat. So if we were to count it in, we'd be like 1, 2. Let me try that again because I'm an idiot and I forgot how to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he does start singing in the bar just after that beat. So we're going to cue to that first 1 beat because it'll make it a little bit easier for us. Right. So the next thing that we're going to want to do, of course, is get the tempos set up. So let's run the loop on one side, and we're going to bang these tempos together because they are going to be a little bit off because, you know, why wouldn't they be? And so we're going to run the loop over here, and then we're going to nail these tempos together real quick. And then we will try to execute a little bit of a mashup here and see what we're able to accomplish. All right, here we go. Well, I mean, we're kind of doing it now, aren't we? Might filter off some of that. Just hear it a little more if we do that, right? Or we could just take out a little bit of the high end. Ah, I like that. That sounds even better. Human drummers and all. Okay, I think that's enough of an example there, right? Ways to put 2 songs together and make a new song out of it, right? Okay, cool. Frantic says, you want to read it out for us, Diana?
All right.
Your mic's on.
one thing I've noticed in Serato is when trying to do a mashup live, it's not easy as you think. And I've tried the other day when I was live streaming, but I had trouble trying to get the vocals only on my second song, but I did manage to get it finally.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, you do have to go into it with some foresight. And the cool thing is, when you're in your Q channel, you can cut the program out. You don't have to be listening to that part at the moment. And you can do your EQing, and that's what it's going to sound like, so it does give you a little opportunity, to be perfectly honest with you. The moments when you're actually cut a live mashup, like completely unplanned, never thought of it before, are pretty rare. When you hit those moments, you're like, I am a god, because it is really, really rare. And it's like, and sometimes those will turn into something you might even want to produce, um, you never know what you're going to find. And of course, by exploring your catalog a little bit and playing with things, you might find some cool loops and that kind of stuff that you can do it with. I mean, the Mary Mary and Big Time one was one that I just kind of ran over by accident myself. Like I said, I had the inkling, and so I pulled it on one of the Retro Rumpus shows. And I mean, I tell you, I was riding my teeth on it the whole time, but it was kind of like, yeah, I can make this go. I can make this go. I can make this work,
Mm-hmm.
So here's a little trick for you. If you're, let me see if I can make it occur. Which one should I use? Well, let's go ahead and use Mary Mary, and we'll just start it somewhere around the top here. And I'm gonna let me try to make this work real quick. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna use instant doubles and send it over to this deck as well. So I've got it playing on both decks right now. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop it on this deck, and I'm gonna send it down somewhere else in the track here, and I'm just gonna set myself a cue point here, and let's pretend it's the cue point that I'm using, right, and that I'm actually doing this in the headphones, which I'm not. But I'm going to set this cue point, and here's the cool thing, is that now that cue point is on the track that I'm playing. So check this out. I'm going to hit this cue point I just set right here. Right? That's the cue point that I set in the song on the other deck while this fucking thing was playing. I don't know if you knew you could do that. But you can. So again, what I did is I used instant doubles. I just, it's the same as, you're just loading the same track that you're playing, the same file. It has to be the same file, not the same song in a different file. You know what I mean by this, right? It's got to live at the same address. So yeah, you're opening the same file in the other deck, and then you can set the cue point on that literally while you're playing the song from the same file, and it will set that cue point for you live on the other deck, so that you can be like, oh hey, you know what, there's this spot where I want it to loop or where I want to jump to, and I don't have it in my thing. You can get on the other deck and cue it. That's actually how I did the Mary Mary one live. Was I was like, oh shit, you know what? It does the beat at the end, but then it gets messy. Where does it start that beat? And I, backtracked it. I loaded it in this deck. I backtracked it until I found that beat. I said, okay, there it is. I set the cue point, and then, boom. And then when it hit that spot, it was a quick poke on the auto loop there. And when I saw that it wasn't quite as clean as I wanted, I did a quick adjustment on the loop, and then I saved that loop, obviously. So I can't really, actually, did I do the, I think I actually even set up the loop I think I actually set up the loop on the instant doubles deck and saved the loop while that one was playing. That was how I did it, so that by the time it got to that point, I had the loop turned on so it would just start looping. And all of this happens, you know, within like 2 minutes, you know what I mean? It all happens within like 2 minutes. All right, so that's one way to do a mashup. Of course, the another way to do it would be to use the acapella with another track. Let's do that real quick. I think that'll work. That'll work for a quick example. Over on this side, I've got 900 number 45 King, very famous break, and on this side, Peter Piper, Run DMC. Run DMC is so convenient for mashups. But what I'm going to do is, instead of using it all right from the beginning,
goddamn, that DJ made my day.
I'm going to use it from that point, from the goddamn that DJ made my day.
Goddamn, that DJ made my day, like the butcher.
No, let's take it back.
God.
Where's my opening?
Now Peter Piper pick peppers, but run rock ride.
Okay, let's take it from there. Let's just go ahead and do that. Take it away, 45 King. Gonna need some more gain on this. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about this real quick. Again, when you're doing these things, you're going to be doing a fair amount of chasing it on the fly. So I'm not 100% sure where my pitch is here. I'm kind of like in the general ballpark. If you think Serato doesn't count syncopated beats very well, it really doesn't count acapellas very well. Doesn't know what to do with all that blank space, I think. But and the other thing too is, of course, this doesn't really start on one beat.
Now Peter Piper pick.
No.
Goddamn.
Oh, sorry. That one. Now Peter is the, so we can set our cue to there, right?
Peter Piper pick.
So that way we'll know it'll be on the one beat, and you might miss the little now in there, but I don't think anybody else will. All right, so let's hit some beats over here. Go once around the block, right?
Peter Piper pick peppers, but run rock ride. Humpty Dumpty fell down. That's his art. Time. Jack nimble. What? Nimble. And he was quick, but jam. Mass mud. Fast and Jack's on Jay's dick. Now little Bo Peep Cole lost her sheep, and Rip Van Winkle fell a hell asleep. And out of tune somewhere in Wonderland, Jack serving Jill bucket in his hand. And jam after Jay's making out that sound. The turntables might wobble, but they don't fall down.
Yep, chasing that. Let's try it again from the top now. Now it should be a little closer on me. I went and messed up my cue, didn't I?
Peter Piper pick peppers, but run rock ride. Humpty Dumpty fell down. That's his art. Time. Jack nimble. What? Nimble. And he was quick, but jam. Mass mud. Fast and Jack's on Jay's dick. Now little Bo Peep Cole lost her sheep, and Rip Van Winkle fell a hell asleep. And out of tune somewhere in Wonderland, Jack serving Jill bucket in his hand. And jam after Jay's making out that sound. The turntables might wobble, but they don't fall down.
The nice thing about having an acapella is that when it's a little bit sloppy and you're chasing it around a bit, it's pretty close and it doesn't sound too bad, Let's see where we land when we get into the next verse here, though, because it's a long stretch between the verses.
Now Dr. Seuss and Mother Goose both did their thing, but Jam Master's getting used to DMC.
Way ahead of it.
Cause he's the gold entertainer, child educator, Jam Master J, king of the crossfader. He's the better of the best believe he's the baddest. Perfect timing when I'm climbing, I'm a rhyming apparatus, lot of guts. When it cuts, girls move their butts. His name is Jay, here's the play, he must be nuts. And on the mix, real quick, and I like to say he's not flat, but he's fast, and his name is Jay.
All right, so that's an acapella over another track. Of course, 900 number being basically just that as it goes for a while. It's a good one to go over. Frantic says, one thing I've noticed when trying to do a mashup, your BPMs have to be on beat or else it sounds like a train. Oh yeah, I mean that's the truth of any mix though, man. That's why beat matching is the prerequisite skill to doing something like this. It's like, it's one of those things you really got to know where your one beats are. You have to be able to flow that, it becomes a groove factor, doesn't it? Like, all right, let's just do an acapella over a beat, over a break beat, and we'll have a quick little fun with Rapper's Delight here, huh? Is somewhere ishes is. We'll see where that is. So
I said a hip hop, a hibbit.
Again, it doesn't start on a one beat.
I said a hip.
The hip is the one beat.
I said a hip.
Okay, so I know I need to come in on the offbeat when I do it. Gonna set a nice long loop on this one. There we go. Got a fun little beat. And now, like I said, it's just a groove thing here, right? Is you want to find something that grooves well together. And now again, this is kind of really stripping it down. But this is kind of key to being able to do this kind of thing well, is that you really have to you have to really tune into the patter of the vocals and find where the strong beats in the vocals are, so that you're staying in that place where you're on the one beat, just like as if you were singing, right? Like, I said a hip hop, a hippie to the hip hip, hopping you don't stop, or rocking to the bang bang. Okay, so we're gonna do that over here though, right? So you get what I'm saying, right? It's like sing along with it, so you find where you are in the thing, and then that way when you start your acapella, you're gonna be in the right place, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. And we're gonna come once around the block here.
I said a hip hop, a hibbit to the hip hip, papa. You don't stop to rock it to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm a rapping to the beat, and me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I'd like to say hello to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, to the purple and yellow. But first, I gotta bang bang a boogie to the boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop. Rock the riddle that'll make your body rock. Well, so far you heard my voice, but I brought two friends along. And next on the mic is my man Hank. So come on, Hank, sing that song. Check it out. I'm the C8S and the OVA, and the rest is FLY. You see, I go by the code of the doctor of the mix, and these reasons I tell you why. You see, I'm 6'1" and I'm tons of fun, and I dress to a T. You see, I got more clothes than Muhammad Ali, and I dress so viciously. I got bodyguards, I got two big cars, that definitely ain't the whack.
Okay, that gives you the idea. It's a groove thing. Jeffrey Music, good to see you. Thank you. All right, so let's see. Let me turn that monitor down again. Trying to avoid getting any feedback into microphones. So I think that's a pretty good coverage so far of mashing up. And I what is it leading us to bootlegs, Diana?
Yes.
Talk for a few seconds so I can drink some tea.
Yeah, I'd like to hear then the difference between that and your bootlegs, because you have done a few bootlegs.
Done a bunch of bootlegs. Okay, so what do we mean by bootleg? Let's start with what is a bootleg. All right, so now we know what a mashup is. A bootleg is remixing a pre-existing track. How would you say, without authorization from the originating artist. And so sometimes as DJs, we want to freshen up or recontextualize a song, so that we can play it in our sets. That we want to do something a little different with it, right? And so we will produce an unauthorized remix of that song. in contrast of an authorized remix, right, which is like, you know, the artist gave you the stuff to work with and said you have permission to do this, or perhaps even commissioned you to do it, or something like that. um, Done a bunch of those as well. Yeah, sometimes you just want to take an old tune and give it new life, or bring it into a new well, a new context, I guess is the best way to say it, is update it. You know, you want to bring it into the now. That's something that you're going to do. You know, you're producing that in the DAW. Like, you know, we said with a mashup, right? You know, you can produce a mashup. You know, I could take the 45 King thing that I just did there, or the Mary Mary thing that I just did there, and I could, like, you know, I could record those. I could throw all that stuff into the DAW and get it all like nice, lined up, all perfect, and then, you know, like put it up on my SoundCloud. Like, here's the mashup that I produced, you know, of this tune. And if you do go on my SoundCloud, the Goat Yay thing's still up there, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so on my SoundCloud, I have this thing, and you know, it's just kind of one of those like funny little, you know, you call it a practice piece, you know, and my thought was, so, you know, Goat Yay, someone that I used to know, right? It's got this like very 80s-y sounding thing, and like right off the bat, he kind of sounds like Sting, and it's got this very like, you know, if you know the song, you know, it sounds like an 80s song. And so what I thought would be fun would be to take a bunch of recognizable loops from 80s new wave songs, and sort of recreate the flow of somebody I used to know, but with all these 80s songs in the background that kind of went along with the theme. And so I call it a multi-mash, because essentially what I'm doing is I'm playing one a cappella and then mashing in all the other parts from, you know, the existing songs. So that counts as a mashup. That's you know, it's a little more complicated than just, you know, a one or two, you know, like taking two songs and mashing them up. But by doing it as a production piece, you know, it's like, you know, it's something that would be much more complicated to execute live, although not impossible with, you know, 3 decks or 4 decks, I guess, and really good planning. But a little bit crazy to try to pull like out of your ass, you know. On the bootlegs, all right. So like, one of the bootlegs that I did is the Broken Wings by Mr. Mister,
Yes,
right? And it's
yeah.
like, you know, it's kind of a slow song. You know, that tune's like really thick. It's the production on it is gorgeous. And I was just like, you know, it was actually my buddy DJ42 that was like, we were talking, and he was like, you know, it'd be a good dance song. It'd be Broken Wings would be a good, you know, that needs to be like a good dance song. You know, like, you should do that one. And I said, oh, fuck yeah, you know. And I want to be clear on this. It's not a very complicated bootleg. Like, again, you know, I'm doing it in a DAW, and what I've done is I've what I call re-grooved it. So I am using the original, you know, fully produced, you know, as it were on the album wave file. But then I loaded it into the DAW. I set it to the tempo that I wanted it to be. So I wanted it to be quite a bit faster than what it was. And of course, the nice thing about you know, the software is that it corrects, you know, for the pitch and everything too, and it does it quite seamlessly in Reason. It's very good at resampling, and then I created, you know, using the drum machines, you know, and some samples, some loops, hi-hat loops. You know, it was a very simple regroove, and you know, I don't think I even like wrote a bass line into it. I think I just EQ'd the bass line in it up and looped it so that I had it thicker. But that's a bootleg, and it's a pretty simple one. Something like Season of the Witch was a lot more complicated. There's a lot going on in the original song there. It's way a lot slower than what I did, so I chopped that one up a lot. Whereas Broken Wings, I pretty much just left it as it was, the whole track. It's like already a perfect composition. All I did was give it some bump, you know, a regroove. And, you know, of course, that becomes something that, I mean, I play it all the time. I played it a couple of weeks ago. And it always gets a great reaction when people hear it because it's a gorgeous song. And so if you are a DJ and you find yourself in need of some Mr. Diana's told you where you can grab it already. Season of the Witch is like a little bit more complex of a bootleg because I've done a lot of sequencing in that. I am using some beat loops, some breaks, and also the drum machines. And doing a lot of layering for the percussive elements. I've got synthesizers going on there. I rewrote the bass line for it. You know, I've got those nice bouncy, like kind of electro-clashy kind of things going on. And, you know, there's one part where I take the riff and I chop up the whole riff and play it with backwards notes, but in the same like forwardness with backwards drums and stuff going on. So it's a much more complicated remix. And when it boils right down to it, I'm not using much more out of it than the samples from the guitar and the vocals kind of thing. And I've chopped it all up and, you know, mapped it all out and got it all on time. I had to do a lot of like sliding stuff around, bending things because it's humans and folk music, for crying out loud. If there's one thing folk musicians can't fucking do, it's keep time. Listen to Bob Dylan and tell me I'm fucking wrong. Listen to Peter, Paul, and Mary and tell me I'm fucking wrong. Listen to Simon and goddamn Garfunkel and tell me I'm wrong. None of them keep time well. They keep groove incredibly well, but they're all over the fucking map on tempo. But yeah, so that's a bootleg that's like that was a lot of work, you know, it was a lot of work. But of course, you know, not sanctioned by Donovan. You know. Although I did send it to Donovan via Facebook. I never heard back. Some of the artists that I've remixed, bootlegged, have been quite gracious about it, but some of them have just completely ignored it, which is fine. Frantic says, next song I need to find is a dance mix. Color Me Bad. I Want to Sex You Up. That song needs to be a house. I want to sex you up. You know, it might be a good one for you to practice working on your bootlegs, Frantic. You know, load that puppy up into a DAW and stretch it to the tempo that you want to get it to, and start working some drum machines under it. Give it some nice house beats. You know, go for it. You know, I say go for it. Let's see. So what's the next thing on that? Well, we were talking about remixes.
Remixes, yeah.
All right, so remixing, actually, I want to just kind of clarify this. Technically, a remix can just be like an artist sends you the tracks and you mix the tracks in a different way than they did, like without changing anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally just reinterpreting the original tracks into a different mix. Like, I like the vocals stronger and the guitars further back than the artist did or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's, that would be something where an artist would hand it off and say, you know what, I want, I have my mix that I've done, but here's all the raw tracks from what I've done. And I would like you to then engineer this for me with your ear and mix it the way that you do as a producer, without changing anything. And that would technically be a remix. That's not what we're talking about here. For an official remix, an artist will send you a stems package. It might just be the acapella. It might have the different layers like the drums, the synths, the bass lines, that kind of stuff, the guitars, whatever it is, that you can then use at your liberty to create a new interpretation of the song. Your job as the remixer then is to do it differently than the artist did, with the pieces that they give you and what you decide to use from it. I tend to remix from the acapella, and I write everything else up from ground up, just from that acapella. Every once in a while, I will use some of the other elements. Kind of earlier in my game, I was definitely using a lot more of the elements that they would send me because I was learning my way through the sequencing stuff. So I started off by doing remixes that were mostly remixing the drums, adding some simple parts to it. But my objective for those was to really change the feel of the song, or to find a different feel in the song than the original, so that like you could listen to the original, you would listen to my version, you would be like, oh yeah, I see what you did there. You know what I mean? Remixing from the acapella is composition within certain boundaries, and even then you can really muck with those boundaries. One of the remixes that I did for Spider Lilies, right, I liked the harmony track. So they gave me the main vocal track and they gave me the harmony track, which happened to be the entire song, harmonized for the recording. And I liked the harmony track because it was like an odder key, I guess. And it just bent my ear in a different way. And so instead of using the main vocal, I ended up turning the harmony vocal into the main vocal, and then used the main vocal to run it through a vocoder and give it more robotic kind of thing going on underneath it. So it became a low harmony under it, where the high is in the original. It's the lower vocal with the higher harmony. So that was kind of an interesting one to mess with. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach that. Of course, that's something that you're going to do in your more advanced workstations, like the one I use, of course, being Reason. A lot of people use Ableton. There's plenty of them out there that you can be doing this kind of stuff in. And of course, when you're doing a remix for somebody else, you should be very, very careful to avoid using any samples that could cause legal trouble in the future. Like, you want to make sure if you're using samples, everything is quote unquote cleared. Whereas when you're doing your bootlegs and stuff, in my bootlegs, I do not give a fuck what I sample. We will get to it. I will define sample in just a moment, and that's probably going to take us out. But I will sample the fuck out of anything in my bootlegs because they're unofficial remixes, and I'm not supposed to be putting them out anyway. Like, what do I care if I get another copyright flag? come get me. Squeeze blood from a stone, right? I got nothing to take. But anyway, seriously though, if you're doing something for another artist, you really want to be careful not to get them in hot water. You don't want to get your friends sued for using a sample that is too identifiable or can't be cleared. That said, I have definitely sampled things that are probably pretty fringy on that in some of the things that I did earlier in my remixing career. But of course, that is one of those things that I kind of came to the realization. I was like, that could be dangerous. You know what I mean? It's some of the, there is a point in transformation at which it's unrecognizable, and that's kind of your gray area argument. I don't really want to get into the politics of copyright or anything like that, but just know that if you're releasing something commercially, everything's got to be cleared, and bootlegs are technically not legal, though they are incredibly fucking common because we live in a litigious culture, but we also live in a remix culture. And those two things are not combining well. If you want to learn more about that shit, check out that Lawrence Lessig stuff, his TED Talks. Check out that Lawrence Lessig stuff. Can you type his name into the chat so that people can look up Lawrence Lessig? He is probably the top copyright... well, he is a lawyer, but he's probably the top copyright expert in the country, and he is fighting against it. He is I'm pretty sure he's the one that conceived of the Creative Commons reuse. Yeah, Creative Commons, that's a whole nother subject, but a very good one. Check out Lawrence Lessig. Jeffra Music says, yeah, more than not, if I've ever been copyrighted, it's by songs I've never heard. That one of the things that we are always running up against with the live streaming is, on Facebook, man, it's like the copyright bots get us faster than, they just get us right away. It's like, it's really vicious. It's like we are, how do you say this? Let's just put it this way. We don't have much recourse. There's not a hell of a lot that we can do about it. But anyway, moving right along. What is sampling? You're going to drag me into this conversation, aren't you, Jeffra Music? I really don't want to. If you want to run down the copyright stuff, check out the Lawrence Lessig stuff, really. Of course, if you're releasing anything commercially, make sure that all your samples are cleared, or you'll run into trouble. Like Bass Nectar had one of my favorite Bass Nectar songs is technically not a legal release because it was like something that he put up on his blog, but then he couldn't release it on his album because one of the samples they didn't get the clearance for one of the samples, so they ended up not being able to put it on the album because that particular sample was so central to the thing. And in my opinion, it's the best piece he ever did. It's that Snake Charmer piece, right? I've played it in my sets so many times, and especially when we were doing Cosm and all that kind of stuff, but like back then. But yeah, the Snake Charmer tune is like absolutely, in my opinion, one of Bass Nectar's best. I mean, I'm gonna say this is best piece, but it was never released on the album because of the clearance on the sample. So what is sampling? Sampling is taking a piece of something that exists. That's literally what it is. A sample is it's a sample of a recording. You're taking a piece of a recording. There's also like, okay, so sometimes people will refer to field recording as sampling, like, sampling like a piece of metal, banging a piece of metal. What we're really referring to there, I mean, it is sampling because you do it with a sampler. But when we're talking about the copyright stuff, the samples that we're talking about is sampling something out of a copyrighted piece of music or a copyrighted anything, really. It doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of music. You can use news broadcasts, by the way. So when I cut up all that Trump stuff, it's fair use because it's public domain. Anything that's on the news, so if like somebody says something on the news, it's like a recorded interview, it's on the news, that kind of shit. You can use that and remix it into your song. However, if it's a quote from a movie, that is copyright, and you have to get that cleared. Talk to Velvet Acid Christ about that. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine? So it's okay, Jafra Music. It didn't actually really derail me because I feel like it helped ladder us to this conversation about what a sample actually is. Sometimes your samples can be really, really small. It might just be a snare drum that you're sampling. And you're sampling it because it has a particular frequency range that you like and you want to layer it into something. And I tell you, the bots can't figure out a snare drum. It's a noise hit. They don't know the difference. I mean, you could make a noise hit that you can make a snare drum that sounds like any other snare drum if your production skills are tight, sometimes you're using a longer piece of the thing, like a piece of the vocal or a piece of the melody. So like I call a composition made entirely of samples, I call that sampledelia, which of course I get from D-Light, whose Groove is in the Heart, with the exception of the lead vocals on Groove is in the Heart, is entirely a sample-based production. Oh, and Bootsy's bass line. Mm-hmm. It is a sample-based production. And so, and that's what we do with sampledelia. So when you take Funky Summer, for instance, which you will find also, is that one on the SoundCloud? I don't think that one's on the SoundCloud because I've had so many copyright strikes on the SoundCloud.
No, I think it's on the YouTube.
Yeah, it is on the YouTube. But yeah, like I use samples of Love and Spoonful, right? I use the piano riff from Summer in the City, and I use some drum samples. I don't actually use Funky Drummer. Which one did I use for that? I don't really remember, but I do know that I used the drum fill from Phil Collins from In the Air Tonight, which everybody will recognize as the one with the deer falling over the toy slide thing. Let's see what else is in there. I sampled the vocals from Oh Yeah. Oh Yeah. Beautiful thing, right? And I sampled some other drum fills in there. I think the list might actually be on the YouTube page of what the samples that I used in that song were. You know what I used? Well, you know what else I sampled was the horn from the Archer theme song. Yeah. The long horn at the end of that. So that's an example of and then I wrote the bass lines for it. I also added some drum programming and stuff, right? So it's got nice, so even with the changes in the drum loops that I'm using, there's a consistent beat there, which is the drum machine. But there's a number of, I've got a few other pieces of sampledelia up there as well. It's fun stuff to do. Actually, what are some samples, like movie samples, right? Like when I did Hal, right, I took the samples out of 2001.
Yep.
Yeah, so Bad Witch
Mhm.
samples out of Wizard of Oz. I even sampled a little piece of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which, let me tell you, is dangerous. I'm surprised they never caught me. And, like, it hasn't come up, but you know.
Right.
I am definitely one of those cats. I wear a patch on one eye. I'm kind of a pirate. Like as I said, I don't want to get into the whole like copyright laws thing, but let's just say I'm on the Lawrence Lessig side of the argument, and also kind of don't give a fuck, and that's a dangerous place to be, my friends. But it's also an incredibly creative place to be, so enjoy it. Like, don't give a fuck. Create, create, create. Sample the fuck out of shit and create, create, create. Some of the greatest hits of the 90s and shit were sampling from the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and shit. And because of that, they changed the damn laws on us, you know. What they should have done, of course, is make it fair to the artists who were being sampled, but instead they just crushed it. They, you know, anyway, so like I said, I don't want to get into it. Check out your Lawrence Lessig TED Talks and all of that fun stuff. Rotten Little Dead Girl, good to see you. We're just about to close off the show. Did I miss anything, Diana? What have we talked about today?
We've talked about bootlegs. We've talked about mashups. We've talked about sampling. Yeah,
And we talked about remixing.
and remixing.
And I think that was what we had said we wanted to cover today, and it's a god darn good thing because it's just a couple of minutes to 3. Would you kindly give us the rundown of the things that are going on again? And are we going to raid the Space Couch? What's going on over there?
Space Couch is on today. Coming up for us, we have this Wednesday the MTV TV Artist Spotlight with Batavia, you know.
Potato.
And then Saturday we have Walpurgisnacht with DJ Loki. Halloween in April. It's going to be great this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/ADDMBOMBB.
This place.
The following Saturday, we're going to take a week off to go to Dark Spring, Boston, which will be amazing. And then, of course, every Sunday here on twitch.tv/ADDMBOMBB, we have Musically Minded at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Indeed. And of course, I want to say thank you again for all of your support. We've got the Patreon over there, ADDAMBOMBB. Perhaps even more importantly, MTV TV, EMPTYVEE TV. Thank you for supporting all the things that we do. Thank you for joining us on Saturday nights. Thank you for an incredible birthday party, Diana. The rock star of surprises, the rock star of birthdays. The rock star of all this crap. I know. I can't say it enough. Diana's the one that's holding it all together. She's the one that makes it all happen. I just show up and apply talent and do the best I can. But she's holding all the ropes. So let's say, shall we go ahead and say goodbye? And Diana's going to raid us over to Space Couch then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you for joining us all of these times. We'll be back next Sunday with more Musically Minded, and you already know all the stuff that's going on because Diana told you so. So I think I've managed to fill just enough time for us to get to the theme song and raid over to Space Couch on time. Much love, my friends. Thank you again.